Welcome back. Today we're exploring RZOLV Technologies, building the future of gold extraction without cyanide, trading on the TSXV under RZL. This video is disseminated on behalf of RZOLV Technologies, but we're privileged to be joined by Dwayne Nelson, the president and CEO. First and foremost, welcome, sir.
Thanks, Cal. Pleasure to be here.
And a pleasure to get you on. And I just want newer investors to understand the kind of market that you guys are playing into, because there's a lot of retail and I'm sure just general investors that aren't even aware of this sector of the precious metal market. So do you want to explain exactly what RZOLV is doing?
Yeah, RZOLV was started to address a segment of the gold mining sector that's not addressable by the current processing technologies. And namely, we're talking cyanide. 80 to 90% of the world's gold is produced using cyanide. And roughly $3 billion of cyanide is used every year in gold mining. But it doesn't cover everything. There's a massive unaddressable market that we call the failure windows of cyanide. And that is mineral deposits and mines that are located in geographically constrained areas, politically constrained, where the use of cyanide is prohibited, the use on different mineralogies, complex copper gold ores, sulfide minerals, sulfide-based concentrates, and other areas that cyanide is ineffective. And that's a significant market. Our estimates are that the unaddressable market for cyanide is significantly larger than the current market. And so by partnering with cyanide manufacturers and distributors and engineering firms around the world, our goal is to provide the only cost-effective alternative to cyanide that would be very effective in those areas.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we went live here, we were kind of speaking to how, this is different from cyanide and why you're not really competing with the market as much as you're actually just partnering with some of the market suppliers out there. So do you want to talk to the difference between your process and the current cyanide process?
Yeah, I mean, as I said before, cyanide has been used for 100 years. And however, there are specific ore types and jurisdictions where it just doesn't work. So both chemicals, both this use of cyanide and the RZOLV technology, are both water-based chemicals. So they're scalable. Ours is extremely stable in open air environments. The big difference is that ours is non-toxic, unlike cyanide. And so as I mentioned before, it helps to address areas that cyanide just cannot penetrate. And whether that's because of the rock, the nature of the rock, or the lack of permitting, that's the big difference. So importantly, though, the infrastructure and the process is almost identical to that of cyanide. So the miners can actually switch over to our solution by simply changing the powder that they're feeding their operations. So it's the same infrastructure, same piping, same plumbing. It reports to carbon the same way that cyanide does. And we hope that will really help to accelerate the adoption of RZOLV fairly quickly.
Yeah, and I appreciate the insight on that. And you recently completed a successful bulk scale vat leach tests in Arizona. I mean, what do those Arizona bulk scale tests provide or prove?
Oh, that was really important. We ran a 100-ton bulk test in a real world environment. And it was based on some oxide whole ore rock. So it was plus at 1/8, minus ½ inch. And the results actually were superior to that of cyanide. And we had 67% recovery on that. And not only did we get comparable performance to cyanide, but we got it into solution, and we were able to have it report to carbon the same way that cyanide does, 99% recovery to carbon, and then actually pour a gold bar from it. And so we poured about a 2.5 ounce gold bar from it. So it really demonstrated the commercial viability, more importantly, the scalability of this water-based solution.
So let's speak beyond kind of the environmental benefits. You've kind of touched on it a bit, but what is the hard economic argument for miners to adopt RZOLV?
Well, I mean, I guess the biggest economic case is areas where cyanide struggles to perform economically. And we mentioned before, that would include sulfide-based systems or transitional material within an open pit mine where they've got oxides on tops and sulfides down below. And another big market is the ability for us to extract from concentrates, whether it's gravity concentrates or flotation concentrates. We now offer those miners an alternative to smelting, a real cost-effective alternative. And it allows them to process those concentrates and extract the gold on site. And so they no longer have to ship the concentrates off site. They don't have to pay for the shipping. They don't have to pay for the process. And more importantly, they don't suffer the massive penalties that ensue with a lot of the processing of these concentrates.
Yeah, and I guess finally here, I mean, I feel like you guys are in this launch pad phase. Like 2026 is going to be quite pivotal. I mean, what should investors be focusing on through the year?
Continued validation. We've tested hundreds of different ores from hundreds of different locations around the world. And we're really discovering just how resilient this chemistry is. We'll continue to produce independent studies and validations from firms like SGS and ALS Labs. Um, and we're now dealing with some of the larger gold mining companies in the world. And that goes for everything from heap leaching to CIP, CIO plants, and of course the treatment of concentrates. So it's going to be a very pivotal year as we enter the commercialization phase. And I think some of the other most important things that you're going to see is the development of relationships with existing industry giants that are already producing cyanide and have well-established relationships within the industry. And by forging partnerships and relationships with those companies, we feel it will help to accelerate the adoption of RZOLV. I mean, cyanide's a $3 billion market today, but the opportunity that we can create to those unaddressable markets is significantly larger.
On
And
that
that's our
note,
primary focus.
I appreciate the insight in on that. We'll pass it off to the viewers as always. Consider subscribing. News Catalyst is going to be coming down the wire. This company's got a lot going on, and we're going to bring it to you here. So we look forward to providing you those updates. We'll leave the links in the description below if you'd like to explore RZOLV technologies further. But on that, we look forward to catching you in the next one.